All right, Travis, video's live. Stand by for audio. All right, good day, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Live the Fuel show. So this evening, we are connecting up with once again, another brand new co-host for you guys to meet. This gentleman got connected with me thanks to a past co-host. Shout out to Teo Roxon. And this gentleman, he is a little similar to me, actually. He's an ex-corporate ladder climber within the advertising technology space, turned catalyst for change in the way the world identifies with and experiences masculinity. So it's a key word there, masculinity, for today's episode. As a thought leader and coach for men in their 20s and 30s, Travis helps men cultivate the self-awareness and discipline required to transition into a self-authored, purpose-driven lifestyle. We've talked a lot about purpose on this show. He spent the last 3 years cultivating the skills to lead men from Mankind Project, John Wineland, and through the official Wim Hof Method instructor training, which I'm excited to dive into more today. So Travis Roznos is coming on the show here today in Austin, Texas. Sir, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Scott. Appreciate it.
And I will tell you, at the end of your bio, I was getting a kick out of this. You also frequent many coffee shops like myself, sir.
I bounce around. Cold brew. I can't stop trying all the cold brews.
Cold brew is awesome. And
Yeah.
I'm normally not a fan here. How do I answer this? Starbucks, right? It is the official entrepreneur's office away from his office or non-existing office, he or she.
Sure.
And so I go there a lot with my own cold brew that I make. So I just go there as I just need to change up locations. People now who know me, they're like, "Hey, which office are you at today?"
Right.
And I'll be like, "Oh, I'll be in the city of Bethlehem or the city of Allentown. Just look, I'll catch up with you soon." So it sounds like you frequent many shops yourself.
I'm all about the variety too. I appreciate that about this lifestyle, right? Being able to work from wherever and
location freedom,
different spots. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so and just to clarify, you had mentioned this earlier. Did you just move to Austin, or you are still in transition to Austin?
2 weeks I will be driving to Austin, Texas. Yeah.
Okay.
So
where are you at right now?
Phoenix, Arizona.
My old stomping grounds.
Really?
Well, that's where well, not in Phoenix, but that's where I served when I was a wildland firefighter with the federal government. Right. So when I left my corporate ladder climbing job, I took 2 years and I was on one of the elite hotshot crews based in Arizona. And we traveled all over the West fighting the big wildfires. So, and my days off I would spend in Phoenix and Scottsdale, because our base was 3 hours to the northeast in Pleasant Valley. So you have to go up the Beeline Highway to Payson and then make a right. That's what I remember. I'm like, yeah, just make a right when you hit Payson. That's all I remember. I forget the name of the highway. You have to occasionally watch out for the elk. And you're driving up the Mogollon Rim. I don't know how often you got outside of Phoenix and you go up that way or not.
Like the airport and Old Town. That's my.
Yeah. Oh, you're an Old Town guy. Okay, that's cool. I had one of my best Bloody Marys ever in Old Town.
Sure. You can find a good Bloody Mary down there for sure.
First time I ever had one, it was served with 2 sticks of crispy bacon in it, and that's what excited me. I'll never forget that.
Only 2? Only 2.
Well, it was a make your own Bloody Mary day. So after the first round was done, trust me, I stuffed more in there.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So enough about Phoenix. Phoenix, it's a cool, another connection for you and I. It's very hot in the summer but beautiful in the off season, aggro the winter. So I'm a fan either way.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I've hiked, I lost track of how many times I've hiked up and ran up Camelback. So,
yeah.
So, heading to Austin, leaving Phoenix. You got the Mankind Project on your roster. You're now obviously a big Wim Hof guy. So, let's dive right into that, because for our listeners, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never heard of the Wim Hof method, I just recommend you go onto Instagram and you search for WIM space HOF, Wim Hof, because his Instagram is awesome. Just picture a hairy, in shape guy, half naked, doing lots of crazy things in the snow and on icy tundras. I don't know, Travis, how would you jump in on that?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. He's got a crazy hat these days for the winter time. Although it's like always winter for him. Yeah, they're actually asking me to take over the Instagram. So you'll go there and there'll just be pictures of me.
Wait, is he gonna get you a crazy hat?
Yeah, that's part of the whole deal.
I'll put that in your contract. But what drew you to the Wim Hof method?
Yes, about 3 years ago, was at a time in my life where, I've always been into books, but that, 3-4 years ago is when I really started to go on this personal development journey, if you will. And started off like a lot of folks, right? Listening to podcasts, reading books, things like that. And I think like a lot of people was always really had a quick mind. I was always trying to solve problems. My job being in sales, very fast paced. So I've sort of been groomed to think fast, talk fast. Just be really prefrontal cortex operated. So much to the point where, I started reading about, how the SEALs, right, how they train, all these modalities out there that connect the mind and body, call it flow states, call it, whatever you want. But I was like, I haven't really gone down that path at all. Like what does that mean to be embodied? What does it mean to get out of your head, right? A lot of people always used to say that. And I was like, I don't know what that means. I'm always in my head. I need that. I need my problem solving cap always on. But to be honest though, I was kind of missing the point. And so I started researching like breath work, right? I was just really interested in like, how do I take this like psychology approach, right? Like psychoanalysis approach and like go beyond that. And Google showed me ice baths. Like it started to share with me the benefits of.
Wait, the Google algorithm started spitting back to you ice baths.
Yeah. So
what were your key words that you were putting in?
Right. The body, right? Like how to
like mind body stuff.
Yeah, mind body connection. All that stuff.
Yeah.
And,
like keywords like mindfulness.
Yeah. Just that whole realm of things. And it wasn't Wim Hof right away. It was cold exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because for a long, long time, cold water, for human beings, I mean, I can go on all day about like our evolution. I mean, we were very, very much more resilient creatures back in the day. I mean,
we're a bunch of soft pansies now.
Exactly. And that's, publicly the Wim Hof method is really talked about in that manner too. How we kind of need to domesticate ourselves almost, right? And cold water is a way to do that. So I found cold water and I started asking friends. I was like, you guys ever take cold showers? And, everybody's like, no, that sounds crazy, right? But at the time, this was like just over a year ago, I was very involved in group coaching through John Winelands. And so I was in men's groups, finding a passion in it actually, right? Like, wow, I want to teach this. But, I got this group of guys, same group of guys for a full year. And a lot of those guys were like, yeah, I take cold showers in the morning, love it. It does great things for my cardiovascular system. And so I started getting into it and that eventually came across Wim Hof.
Mm-hmm.
Started doing the breathing in the mornings and, the cold showers eventually, I started to kind of enjoy them. And from there on out, I wanted to be a coach and sort of increase my capacity to transmute knowledge and transformation to other people.
Let's pause on the transfer of the information, since on that theme of transfer of information. Okay, did you dive right into the whole cold shower thing? Because I dabble in it here and there. Some people, they got to like ease the temperature like down.
Right.
Or did you just say, one day I'm just going to go for it? I mean, what was your transition into the cold shower lifestyle? Yeah. Because people ask me about it too. So
the point is that you can gradually expose yourself to cold water.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually recommended.
Okay.
The benefits start to kick in on all levels when the water is under 64 degrees. So even if you're getting in water gradually that's under 64 degrees, you're seeing the health benefits of it.
Okay.
So that's the good news. You don't have to get into 30-degree water with ice.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this does not mean you just go chuck a bag of ice in your bathtub and just dive in, because you might literally leap right back out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really actual gradual exposure. That is what we promote with the method. And so myself, I lived in Arizona, right? And so the water, doesn't get all that cold. So it was.
No, you know what? Real quick on that, I learned that the hard way. My rookie year out there firefighting, I didn't know. I'd never been to Arizona, and we got halfway through our fire season, and we earned like 4 days 4 days off in a row that we had guaranteed no callbacks. So we're allowed to go beyond our 2-hour callback radius, and we're free to do what we want. And I was like, this is great. So I think it's Marriott Marquis. The Marquis, there's a high-end golf resort there in Phoenix, Marquis something or other. So I book a room there, and literally I drive straight from our fire base, and I drive there, and I'm like looking forward to a great shower. And I get in the shower, and this is the middle of summer, and I call the front desk. I was like, yo, there's something wrong, man. There's no cold water. And you're laughing your ass off right now, but I was like, yes, sir, it's July. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I mean, the pipes are underground, so what's the big deal? She's like, you do know our water comes in by aqueduct, and it's summer of Arizona. And I was like, so what you're saying is there's no cold water? And she's like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are a 5-star resort. Put some chillers in or something. So I'm sorry. I just had to share that because that popped back in my head. I was like, yeah, there was like no chance in hell that I was getting cold water there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the showers turn into, buying ice bags and doing that once a week in my tub. And luckily enough, actually, though, in Phoenix here, there's a recovery business that opened like 6 months ago where they have a cold filter in the hot tub.
Nice.
And it's 49 degrees. So any day, pop right in there.
Sweet. And that, what do you do? It's like a drop-in fee, or do you have like membership packages? Or?
Yeah, it's just membership. They do, think about a sauna, different things. You just pop in after you work out.
I'm digging it.
Yeah.
So do they have the crazy stand-up freezing chamber thing too?
They haven't gone cryo.
They haven't gone. Really? I figured that's like a natural next step. I mean, actually, I would prefer what you're doing. I like if they got hot tubs full of ice water. I mean, that's, I think, better.
Yeah, definitely. The cryo chambers, I don't know the cost on those things. That they're big money makers too, though. I do know that.
We've got it right here. I got it 10 minutes from my house. I have a place. So
$40 a session or whatever.
Yeah, I still haven't done it yet. I have friends of mine that have gone. They're like, well, Scott, you're all about, like, you can't knock anything till you try it. And I was like, okay, but I just haven't felt the need to go do it yet. So I'll get around to it.
We'll get you there.
But anyway, good. I just want to hear some more of the whole temperature transition stuff. But let's get back to the whole transition of the coaching, wanting to share that information.
Yeah, it was, like I said, three years ago or so that I was really becoming more curious. As I'm in corporate America at the time, I'm in sales. I big sports background, like, I've got sort of that grooming in me where it's like, the more time and effort I put in, right, the more ROI on the back end. Like that just made sense, And so sales was like this natural career path for me. Mm-hmm. And it was media, right? Advertising technology, media, big data. And I was convinced on the outside that, like, I loved it, like I'm doing really well and I'm climbing the ladder. So that success I was sort of hanging my identity on, like, kept me in the game. And I knew deep down, I was like,
heck yeah, man. Next promotion means next pay grade.
Oh yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah. And I'm 26. I'm living by the ocean in Marina del Rey, California. And
beautiful place.
I couldn't convince myself anymore. Like, I just couldn't do it. I look outside, I got my motorcycle, got my BMW, like a nice apartment. And I'm like, it does not do it for me. I know that I'm meant to, like, lead and help other people, but I'm not doing that. And so I can't convince myself anymore.
But let's pause on that. I mean, because I've been there, dude. So I have to pause here because I want to know more. Like, you're saying, okay, it didn't feel right. Now, I know there's listeners hearing this that are going through this. And I think it's important that they at least listen to themselves. This doesn't mean you quit your jobs tomorrow, guys. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's all right. But what do you mean? And some people aren't recognizing this. And like, for me, I ignored it for a while. Sounds like you probably ignored it for a while. So what were some of those feelings that really kind of pulled the wool off your eyes, so to speak, and you realize, holy shit, I am not happy, man? Like, was it it gut pain? Was it heart pain? I mean, what was it?
That's great that you're taking the conversation there. It came down to conflict. When you feel an energy level,
Like
right?
like integrity
Yeah,
conflict, or
definitely integrity, right? Where it was like, I mean, I've always had a big heart, and I've like known like at some point when I figured myself out, like I'm going to make a big difference. Right.
Mhm,
But,
mhm.
I'm 6 years into this, and like, I can't, that I can't convince myself that I'm really doing much here. I'm not servicing the world at all. And my gifts are going to waste. Like that conflict, like added up over time where, I felt anxious more than I ever have been, even though I was developing more. Right. I felt anxious all the time. The mornings just kept getting harder and harder. And I'm a morning person.
Same here.
Waking up, like getting up just became harder and harder and harder. And the energy levels, no matter how much coffee I drank, I just couldn't be excited. I didn't have passion for anything. So it was time to like take inventory, and visually, and like my environment at the time was just like painting this picture. I was like, okay, I've driven this bus for a while, and it's gotten me to a great place, but I'm missing something. And so I've got to discover a little bit more about myself of like, how did I get here? Why do I keep ignoring other things and I'm clearly not making space for other stuff. Right. It's just work. It's just 9 to 5. It's work harder than everybody. Right. It's just play that part. And I'm like,
And a lot of people on the outside probably think that you're happy because, dude, oh man, you got the great apartment or house, and you got the stuff, right? You got the stuff, and in the beginning, the stuff's exciting because you got a physical. For me, I'm intrigued to hear how you respond to this. You got the physical attainment, right? It's like, oh man, I've attained this, I've attained that. I must be on the right track. Is that somewhat where your mindset was at that time too?
It was, 22 to 26. It's, in our culture, right, promotes marketplace competition.
Sure. Yeah.
And your benchmarks are, nice apartment, nice car, these things. It's very external, and it's easy to be distracted with that. It's easy to buy into that. And, I didn't judge myself. It was more like, okay, now it's time to go on a self-discovery path. Like, and I know that I'm reading books and all this stuff, but this is just spiritual entertainment at this point. I'm not really doing anything. And so I took the next step, and that was more like masculinity. I was like, what does it mean? I don't really know. There isn't a rule book out there, a guidebook that says like, you're a man now, or you're like a man that lives on purpose because
you're feeling empty. That's what I'm hearing too, man.
Yeah. Big time. Yeah.
You were jonesing for some fulfillment.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's not a bad place to be. I think that's important for us to also mention this. Like some people say, well, when is it that you'll ever be happy? Because I've heard that when I talk to people, they're like, Scott, you're never happy. I'm like, no. Let me correct you on that. Years ago, yeah, I was never happy, like you, right? And to this date, yeah, there's a spinoff of that. I'm not saying that I'm not happy. I'm just saying I'm driven to constantly achieve more and see where life is going to take me. So I don't tell people now, I'm like, yeah, you might think that I'm just never satisfied or never happy. I'm quite happy and I'm quite satisfied, but I'm also excited to see what else can be attained next. Like you got to be challenged. You got to be driven. I think that's part of that fulfillment and that passion that you were looking for too.
It's the process of growth. And so if you have your focus on how you're growing, and if you're always growing, happiness or what fulfillment can be achieved in that, there's all the outcomes that come from that. But growth mindset, right? I mean, if we're not growing, we level out.
You stagnate.
Yeah. And that can cause all kinds of.
That's scary for some people.
It can get really weird psychologically, emotionally. And that was a time where I was growing in just other ways. I was just getting promoted with a certain skill set at work for somebody else's mission. I was growing there. But I wasn't,
and you're growing their pocketbooks.
Yeah, right. So it manifested its way of letting me know, like, okay, I should take inventory now. Like, what's my next move here of discovery? And so masculinity kept coming up for me.
Now, when you say that, are you saying that you're And this is a question that's popped up to me once in a while when depending on who I'm talking to, and us guys are really bad at this. So I'm excited to take it to a deeper level with you, like I've done with Teo and other people. It's like we aren't manly enough to admit our soft spots, our vulnerabilities, right? And I know I was definitely not as vulnerable as I am now. Like I am learned to embrace sharing vulnerability. Where would you be at in that, adding this into the equation?
In regards to being vulnerable?
Yeah. As far as a part of masculinity or that manliness factor.
Yeah. So where I come at with this, right, is that, if you ask me what masculinity means, it's individualized, it's an individual experience 100% to every single person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a man's relationship to himself. Now that is, again, just the topic of masculinity, separate and not the same as like what is a masculine trait that a man or a woman can embody in a given moment. Two different things. So the topic of masculinity, right?
I agree.
Vulnerability, I would say, can be integrated by a man or a woman, and essentially is expression, right? Mm-hmm. Some people would call vulnerability a feminine way of being, right? And a man can have that. And I think it's essentially the conversation I want to be having, and less of a conversation and more of like doing. Essentially, that's I'm facilitating group work for this. Is increasing the range in which men can go from masculine to feminine, and mm-hmm. that process in and of itself. If we're not so one-sided, purpose and fulfillment and maybe a path or direction in life become more visible.
Yeah, I'm hearing you're increasing the bandwidth of balance in life.
Human experience on all levels, psychological, emotional, and physical.
Yeah.
So I'm promoting less separation because, at the end of the day, no matter how we're raised, culture has certain pressures, the socialization of being, a man in our culture has certain pressures. But even on the woman's side, it's all essentially, if you're a man or a woman, there's kind of pressure to be one-sided. Mm-hmm. And really, I think humans, man or woman, have capacity to further their capabilities if they're integrating more of the full range of what it is to be masculine and feminine.
Oh, I mean, look at and this is not a critique on the professional woman, but I mean, when I was in my ladder climbing days, I was doing a lot of my growth with T-Mobile, and a lot of my executives and my immediate bosses were actually successful women. Man, they kick some ass, but I'd say 50% of them were expressing so much masculine traits that it was like, okay, you're kind of like a mannish chick. I mean, pardon the term. I'm just saying, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, they were making great money, but I was like, where was the balance? I didn't see the balance. I think that that's society. They've had to do that. They've had to say, well, in order for me to rise up and build a career, I've got to toughen up and show more of that masculine side. But then let's flip the coin back to us men. We naturally do that, right? If you're a type A personality person climbing a ladder like you and I have done, it's like, okay, well, that's expected, right? We're expected to have that trait. But then when it comes to, my part of my transparency is the fact that I was never like in love, right? Like I was always chasing the next career, the next position, the next salary bump, and never made time for relationships. So I was actually very lacking on that side of my life. I was very unbalanced. Even when I left that and went into firefighting to take a complete break and unplug, and still would not allow myself to open up that side of myself. So, I mean, just the fact that I'm actually engaged right now at 40 years of age, it took that long. That's like, okay.
Congrats.
I turned, thanks. I mean, I turned 40 in September. I got engaged in August. So it's like, that's how, but this girl that I'm with took a shitload of patience from her because, and she also broke up with me for 3 months because it was me not allowing to show any vulnerability. Like I was holding on to that. Some of my friends actually said like the firefighting we did was kind of like special forces style of the firefighting world. I don't know. I guess we were an elite crew. So it took certain behaviors to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah.
amongst my brothers, right? Doing
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So getting back to society and the normal romantic world, it was just not possible for me. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
No, absolutely. I hear that. Everything that I've read historically on masculinity. By the way, like there's like again, I think there's one college in the United States that offers like the history and evolution of masculinity. Like, well,
really?
it's not this topic of
Is it under their psychology program or?
no, it's masculine studies,
Oh,
in Stony Brook in New York. But
interesting.
Michael Kimmel essentially he's written the only books we really have on the evolution of masculinity. There's very, very few, of it out there. But what's interesting essentially is he takes he looks at the last 150 years, and he breaks down essential kind of ideals of masculinity, and it's really just so that we as a society can like look at the past to understand, oh, like how do we think that society puts pressure on us to behave a certain way. But essentially this domination, right? Like essentially it's men think they need to be dominating or strong, and like that makes a man.
There's a lot of assumed.
Yeah, there's
a lot of assumption, right?
There's that, but the ironic highlight that he points out is the fear that men have had over the course of time to behave a certain way, is the fear of being dominated by other people, less than I need to be dominating, and that is essentially this proving the unprovable, which is manhood. And so this is, it's I can go about it all day. Like I love the historical point of view and essential like
history is always valuable. We have to understand where we've come from if we're going to be able to grow beyond it.
Yeah. It's take what is good trait wise and maybe repackage it to integrate more. And that's the stance that I take on it.
Well, I mean, this was literally, I was driving back from Syracuse, New York today. So I had a long, 3-hour drive, and I was up there on business. And one of the podcasts I was listening to, I forget which one it was, but they were literally discussing what you and I are discussing right now. Talk about the generational gaps and I guess the residual education that was left behind from prior generations, right? So like my great grandparents or grandparents come from a warring generation, right? World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, all of that. So there was no room, the Great Depression, right? There was no room for vulnerability. Everybody had to toughen up, right? Yeah. So that was the parenting that led to the next generation.
Right.
And that it might have softened a little, but that was still left behind. And then then you move that towards the Gen X, Gen Y generation, my generation, and then obviously the new millennial generation and this new Zillennial, or whatever we're calling the latest. But there's still remnants left behind.
Right.
And and it's just interesting. It's just funny we're talking about this because it's like, oh, this is literally what I was listening to earlier. Because I geek out on this stuff too.
Yeah. A lot is coming into play in this conversation now. I thought I was maybe a part of a small group of of men that were looking in men's groups and how to understand masculinity and take what I want from it and leave the rest. This was 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden in the last year you've got mainstream movement on this topic. Lewis Howes comes out with a book last month called The Mask of Masculinity. It's getting mainstream attention. Justin Baldoni is the Jane the Virgin star. He's got a show called Man Enough, and it's all about this discussion. And this is mainstream conversation now. And it's not about like gender roles necessarily. It's it's self-discovery anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny you bring up Lewis Howes. I met him not at this year's Thrive, Make Money Matter, but the previous year when we were in San Diego, he spoke. And he gave us, his book is somewhere back here. People give me their physical books, but then I go buy the Audible because I have no time to read, and I listen to it in my travels. So I've listened to his book twice, the one before this one. And and I've actually recently added the newest Masculinity book to my Audible library. So I'm still playing catch up. So that's the other problem, ladies and gentlemen. Once you start following down this path like Travis and I are on, your library grows so quickly. I don't know how big your digital library is.
It's a good thing.
It is. But I think the biggest point of it to kind of rewind back to an earlier little snippet of a point you were starting to make was you reach a point where you've consumed enough and it's time to take action.
Yeah.
And I did not I wanted to make sure we didn't lose the energy that you were starting to build on that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Because I'm sure a lot of your listeners, across these cohorts are maybe experiencing that. I think it's really common. Mm-hmm. There's books, there's information. We're in an information society, right?
Oh, you got quotes. I mean, now thanks to Instagram, like I'm a quotes guy. I'm always trying. I mean, this show, right? The logo, the fire is about firing people up, motivating them, inspiring them to take action.
Yeah.
And again, let's be real. Sometimes in the beginning, the action is reading a book, searching out the stuff that you were telling us earlier about. But then eventually, it's like, okay, maybe it's time you finally, man up. And join a group, find a men's group, find an influencer like yourself. Maybe you don't reach out for Wim Hof right away. Maybe you look for somebody like you who has at least studied under him. And maybe you're more approachable than Wim Hof. That's the other piece to success I teach people all the time too, is like, do not grow so big and successful that you lose your approachability. And that's something very, very powerful. So, I mean, what was the transition that finally made you just say, you know what, I got to take action? Eventually, you reached a breaking point, I'm guessing. No, thank you for pointing that out. That approachability part, I'm taking that. I like that a lot. It was, again, I was reading books and podcasts, but it was just consuming the information. I was like, well, what am I really going for? I'm looking for change, and I'm looking for, if I were to find life's work and start taking action towards that, like what do my action, like how do I align with that? I'm doing this career that I don't really like. I'm in this place. I'm like, but again, like what you said, I can't quit tomorrow. So how do I take the first step to start again, like taking the driving wheel of my life and like creating what I really want, which is like service oriented, like be passionate about what I'm doing. And, I found Mankind Project actually through like searching online, and Mankind Project's organization that's, global, and they're pretty viral. They got a great footprint.
Yeah. They bring back the idea of ritual initiation for men in our culture, because that's been put aside for a very, very long time. And it used to be very crucial part of growing up in a lot of tribal nations, right? Like there's initiation for men. It's been around forever. So they support in that. And then they have, men's groups where men get together. And so that was, I started getting involved in that a few years ago. And that was like the real turning point, because I started to actually change how I saw myself. I started to have some real conviction around like, I can take steps and get out of this career path. I can build a life that's like based on freedom and service. And it's really self-esteem. And it was having men to mirror how I was seeing the world. And then there was accountability. There's guys asking me like, did you follow through on what you said you were going to do? And so to me, in the arc of development, and personal development, is a couple of years of like spinning my wheels of like reading a ton of books and listening to every podcast and essentially just making it entertainment at one point, to then finally seeing real change and building real self-esteem through the process of group coaching and men's groups.
I agree. So what was so besides Mankind Project, was that like your first, I guess, I don't know, like epiphany type of group or organization that kind of started blowing your mind wide open on this topic? Or it sounds like it was. I mean, because you couldn't have picked a better group to do it with. Yeah,
that was.
Okay.
That was it for me, for sure.
Now, are you still a part of that community, or is that just one of these, it's okay, because I tell people like sometimes people move beyond a certain tier or group because they have to keep growing, or maybe you're living in all the worlds. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was very involved for a year, and they have a different format for the groups. It's kind of like anybody can show up, and it's very open. And, I started to get really inspired about like leading men in this work. I was like, I listened to a couple of podcasts actually where there was other men doing this, like becoming men's coaches. And this is just a few years ago. And I was like, wait, so that's a thing? Like people are doing that, quitting their jobs and doing, I didn't know about coaching. I didn't even know that was an industry, but it blew my mind how big this industry was and how much opportunity there was.
And not just opportunity, but also an opportunity to really and I want to pause and reflect on this because I keep seeing it and it just pisses me off. Take the time to get educated and know what it is you're freaking talking about, because there is these 17 and 18-year-old life coaches out there now, or people like, oh, I'm going to be a coach now. Like everybody's a freaking coach. And I was like,
yeah.
Holy shit. Have you ever actually done any coaching before you became a coach? Like, sure. I mean, have you ever educated, taught, been a personal trainer, or like ever have a role where you've influenced other people? And if you haven't, you better have gone through some kind of program to make sure they've at least taught you those best practices and behaviors. And I'm sure you've seen this too. I'm hoping I'm not the only one who's pissed off about it.
The barrier to entry is very low. To be somebody that really offers change and, solid programs, that's another level. But I became, some of my first books that I got into were like The Way of the Superior Man, David Data.
Classic.
Okay, classic book,
I literally do not, if you use Audible, I never delete that book out of my active books, because then I'll just be like, I'll string them down. If I don't feel like downloading a new book or something like that, I'm like, you know what? I'll look at the last listen to date. I will cycle that book in. I think over the past 2 years, I probably am getting in at least once a quarter. I go back and listen to the whole thing all over again.
That's great. So
why not?
You see value in it. Yeah. Each chapter is like a huge takeaway, and for a 26-year-old, when I read it first, it was like blew my mind. I was like, oh, I'm playing super small over here. Like, you know what I mean? I'm playing for tiny little marbles over here.
And again, for our listeners, guys, The Way of the Superior Man, it's not just a book for men. I mean, yes, but I can tell you, I've actually met and spoken with professional women and influencers who also consumed that book too, just for that perspective. Right. And to understand that. And the book's been around a while. I forget when it was written.
5 years, maybe something like that.
Yeah. It's a classic.
Yeah. And, I was fascinated because, after Mankind Project, and I kind of went back to that kind of work, more on the spiritual side, like purpose, very purpose driven, and I was like, why am I here? Like if I was going to die in a week, I started asking that question. I'm like, I wouldn't be living how I live. Like I need to make a change. And I came across the guy that learned under David Data, John Winelands. And so John learned under David for like 10 years. And John's been doing men's groups for a long time. And it was like 2 weeks before his full year program was going to start, I came across his website, John Wineland. Like nice. There's 5 spots left. It's a year-long program. It's for men that are very interested in masculine leadership, potentially want to coach and lead other men in this kind of work. And I'm taking 25 guys, like apply here. And I was like, okay. And I spoke with John and it just clicked. I was like, this is, I want to learn from him. And just finishing, we have our last call next Monday, but what an insane year of just, I've just been stretched, pretty much every time you step into the scene with John and
don't be worried about the screen shifting, because I'm about to do some screen sharing. Only because I was going to share your website. Anyway, again, to our listeners, guys, his name is his site, travisroznos.com. But since we're talking about John Wineland, like I love his logos he's got on his brand here, man, like embodiment, intimacy, purpose. I just want to make sure we're sharing some of this while you're talking about it. So
yeah, definitely. And so the last, I sort of got that intro to what this could be for me in Mankind Project, and then I got another year. Where we did, it was men from all over across the world. We did 3 weekends. We did one in New York. We did one in LA, one in London, biweekly calls. And it was, structure, accountability, and that space that you do not get anywhere else. I have so many guy friends. I have great guy friends. We laugh, we make fun of each other. We support each other in our relationships. We call each other out, but it does not even compare.
There's no depth.
Does not compare to just the structure and space when it's, okay, guys, our point to come together is to hold each other accountable to ways we might not be seeing or interpreting circumstances for each other. And how do we see other men that are they on their purpose or not? And are they in integrity, and are they following through? And when you do that over an extended period of time, there's this trust and effort that just grows and grows and grows. And that's, so the concept of that is what I'm bringing to, my own work, and experiencing it with John was amazing. It's great.
It's interesting. The lineage you're laying for us here, right? It's the Mankind Project, John Wineland, then the Wim Hof method. Just a very interesting timeline. Three powerful brands and three powerful. And I've not studied under any of these, by the way, but I'm familiar with all of them. So it's just interesting because, to your point earlier, it's like once you go down this rabbit hole,
yeah,
yes, there is plenty of influencers out there, but there's few and far between the ones that actually have respect and a strong reputation behind their brands, behind their names. I mean, you've actually built a proper brand when you can actually name your brand after yourself. I tell people from a marketing standpoint all the time, you have two ways to build a brand. You literally build a brand like me. Like I chose to build Live the Fuel because it's something symbolic, for me. And because part of fuel is the fired up component from my firefighting lifestyle changes and everything I learned from that. So for me, I was like, I'm going to build Live the Fuel, and then the Scott Mulvaney will come up with it. But then other people, like again, John Wineland, like, dude, he's built enough of a following and enough of impact where he's like, man, I am John Wineland.
He's just like John Wineland.
Yeah. So it's powerful because I tell, and a quick side trick, always buy your name online. Own.com or whatever.
Yeah, you gotta have your name for sure.
I mean, because if you type in scottmulvaney.com, it just goes to Live the Fuel. So, but I own that. That's my real estate. So I just have to. I always like to toss it in little tricks for people. But and again, to you've obviously launched your brand online. So obviously, and I'm going to do some screen sharing again because I want people to see it for YouTube. So travisroznos.com, and as soon as they come to your site, for our listeners, they're going to see the drop, okay? A man's pursuit of purpose through masculine practice. We've clearly been talking a lot about masculinity today. Mm-hmm. What was this? I mean, for me anyway, like the whole symbolism behind the drop, okay? You've got depending if you count the word drop breaking up your logo, but you've either got a 6-sided, symbol here. It's obviously each side symbolizing a component of your system.
No, it's actually just each side is, each point is just equally mirroring the other, much like men do within the program, right?
Okay.
They're mirrors for each other.
Yeah.
And the drop just represents, it came to me intuitively. I couldn't get it out of my head where I just had to go with it. I had to. If we rewind to that, no matter the experience of your background, if you're a guy and at some point you've had this feeling that you need to prove yourself to ideals that, again, I'm not blaming culture, but you perceive it very easily based on you've got to achieve, you got to be the lone wolf and figure it out on your own, right? There's the vulnerability thing. So the drop for me in my own development path was like, it just represented that the process of like peeling those layers off, like delayering essentially, of like not needing to be anything and focus more on how I feel and just, connect my mind and body. There's also that piece, the drop from like the head to the heart. So that was the other, like, oh, this makes sense for my brand. Like,
well, how many times have people throw in the term of, oh, you got to get out of your own head sometimes. So interesting, right? Just get out of your head and then drop down in your heart. And then is your heart behind what you're doing? So I love that. I love that explanation that you're going with there. That's pretty cool.
That's exactly what it is. And it really started to come true of like, oh, I can teach this with Wim Hof because the breath work and the water. I mean, when you get in ice cold water, you're activating all your systems. You're essentially voluntarily hacking all of your systems, nervous system, your cardiovascular, all of that. But when you do it for a while, you're really tuning your mind to listen to your body. Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't encountered any other modality. I'm sure there's so much out there, but it's like the quickest and easiest way. All you need is access to cold water, and you're going to learn a lot from your body.
Well, isn't part of that process is basically the instantaneous fight or flight mechanism, right? Like it's like you are shocking your body, and whether you like it or not, you are awake. Your body's and your brain is talking to you like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? It's assessing what is going on right now.
Yeah. So, all kinds of benefits wrapped up into that. But anyway, that there'll be, that's the brand.
Yeah. It's good. I like the shock factor of it. So with part of the other site, I'm actually going to go ahead and bring this back. I'm going to leave it up for a bit. So I was poking around your site, and obviously you're going with the drop. But there's a second piece I didn't really click on until before our call today, which is this lean in component.
Yeah.
So where are you going with that?
Yeah, it's just going to be content.
Okay.
On the
so
blog.
This is how you want people to kind of lean into what you're sharing. Like this would be your blog, I'm guessing, and your updates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's blog posts there.
Yeah, I do like the one right there.
The name I branded it. I might be something digital later, but
sure. Part of growth is change. So you might not fall in love with that. Maybe you will fall in love with that. Right. Maybe your audience will, through feedback, help you influence where that could go as well.
I'm sure.
Right. So, and again, we had joked around earlier. I'm like, if you stay approachable, people will be willing to share that content and not hold it back. And I think that's also part of our other thing of, like, it was kind of funny. You just mentioned how maybe through society, we all get developed up to this place where we feel like we have to prove ourselves. Well, in this case, if you've already launched your own brand, you're already putting yourself out there. Technically, you're telling everybody that you're here to prove yourself. But part of the approachability piece is, no, I'm not trying to prove myself. I'm here for you. Approach me, talk to me, work with me. Maybe you don't want to work with me, but at least I'm going to be approachable. And maybe we're going to vibe, maybe we're going to not. I have people can schedule, business coaching with me on my website. And I tell people all the time, like, just because you're not getting on a call does not mean you're going to be a client or a relationship of mine. I'll tell you, I was like, if it doesn't vibe, it doesn't vibe. Because I don't want you to waste your time or your money. I'd rather help you find the path or find the person that you're supposed to work with. And that's going to be part of what you're doing too, is that maybe not everybody's going to be able to vibe with the drop. I don't know. We don't know. This is all a new terrain for you, right?
Mm. Yes.
So,
yeah, I like that. That's great. Those are great tips.
I don't know. I try and share. Sharing is caring. Unless you're talking to another friend of mine, he's just like, sometimes you share too much. I was like, well, at least I'm sharing, and I'm not a closed door, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's you're passionate about the business side of thing and folding in this passionate life and branding and all that stuff, and so
because there's people like you trying to get their message out there. And they've never taken the time to really define who they are and what they're trying to put out there through that brand. Yeah. And it's like, that's why I love personal branding. The key word there is personal. It's, are you personable? Are you approachable? What are you putting forth in your brand? Because even if you are some giant corporate entity, in the end, there's still people behind that. The people are the brand. Yeah. And if you're not putting that out there, you're missing a key component of what it's like to, especially this new generation, right? You're targeting the 20s and 30 somethings, okay? The millennials and the youngest of the well, you're basically right up against the whole X gen. So they're looking for approachability and development. I mean, it's your generation, not mine. But that's part of my target audience, right? I'm taking on the responsibility with this podcast to tell people that, yeah, I want to get through to my own generation, right? Gen X and the Ys. But it's also our responsibility to give back to the next generation and pass along the right knowledge. So that's something that I'm taking that responsibility on into what I'm doing. And so your generation is exactly what I'm trying to help.
Nice. Love that.
So with the drop, and I love that on your site here, the drop is a decision you make. It's very clean and very simple. And with this podcast, with what we're doing, we're talking today, we're getting to know each other, and our followers are doing the same. What is some of the, what else can we do out there to kind of send the right people your way here? I mean, what are you trying to draw towards you, besides obviously getting people to go to visit your website?
Yeah. So in 2018, my main focus is going to be rolling out Wim Hof workshops, which is not just for men. It just so happens that a lot of men go to them, like 85% of.
I was just saying, if you look at most of the Instagram feed, there's a lot of dudes.
Yes, which is so interesting. They talk a lot about this in the certification, is guys look at it as like another achievement they can do, right? Oh, conquer the ice bath. Let's get in that ice bath and like power through it. And then they get in and they start crying because like emotionally they just like something connects. But, I love, essentially my pillars of focus, right, is it's going to be Wim Hof and bringing that to people, like helping people with that method. And I love the idea of even, Facebook, Google's, like companies have their focus on programs. Like I love like Wim Hof's a ton of new demand from companies like on it in Austin. They filled like a whole pool up of ideas. With the drop, I started out like I think a lot of people confused and overwhelmed. Like, oh, I need a Facebook page and I need a YouTube channel and I need a blog and I need, to do all these things. But at the end of the day, what I really want is I only want to work with 12 guys for a longer period of time in 2018 and really over deliver on that. And so
nice.
With the drop, it's just a 6-month program that will launch in June.
Yeah.
And it'll be 12 guys and, there'll be live weekends. And so, it'll be about having conversations for if it's a right fit for guys to enroll in that program. So from that perspective, it's, there'll be some blogging and a lot of, if there's podcasts out there where, this message resonates and sort of the range in which the topics I want to talk about offer value to certain audiences, I want to do that. And I want to speak as well, so speaking, right, on the topic in 2018 is also a goal of mine.
Well, I think it's part of our responsibility since you and I have all spent, time in sales, the sales space. Now just because you've been a sales professional doesn't mean you're meant to be a public speaker, right? I think we all have to grow to that level where we can put forth purpose and give back through the power of speaking. Yeah. And like I said it earlier, like this year was the first time I've actually done any legitimate public speaking. And I really loved it because part of it was me telling some of my story, but it wasn't so I could sit there and like brag and tell my story. It was, I was really trying to get through to the audience and help them understand that I've gone through crazy transformations and you can too. Yeah. And that's part of your story too, is like, you don't have to stay stuck on the corporate ladder forever if that's not where you're happy. That's
what I'm hoping to call out in other people, especially people my age. Because I go back and, I have friends that have gotten married this year, when you turn 26, 28, people start getting married. And I talked to so many people, where I was like, I'm leaving my job. This is what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, wow. Like they kind of like, they're shocked. They're like, oh yeah, I guess you can really do that. I've never really thought about it. I didn't think about it either. It's really easy to be on that wheel and just go and go and go. I mean, that's the other thing is I think what keeps people stuck in this realm, like with career and like not really going for what you're passionate about or like what you feel in your gut is something that you can really offer others, but you're kind of scared about it. You're not sure. Like there's that little nice balance where that feels good. Like it's scary. I don't know if I can do that. That's a good place to be. But certainty and security is just a crippling scenario. Mm-hmm. Even when things are going really, really well in like the corporate world, like being secure in that's how like you're 40 and you're like, oh man, I really wish I would have done this other thing.
See, it's a false security. I have friends, believe me, when I made the decision to go become a federal wildland firefighter, right? I had just finished going back to school on nights and weekends doing accelerated learning because I was like, I set this goal. I was like, I need to go back to school and I got to finish that degree that I never finished. And, I was studying psychology and marketing and I finished it. But along that journey, that final senior year, while I'm working at my corporate gig, I had that epiphany. I was like, well, what if, I finished that degree and I don't go on to another corporate gig? What if I'm meant to become a firefighter? So what I did was I, put myself into an academy, got certified and started networking and trying to find ways to become a wildland firefighter. So then as soon as that degree was done, I had already made the shift, dude. Like I knew that I was going to get that certificate in January 2010. I was done at the end of 2009. I'd already gotten licensed as a certified firefighter. I'd already gone to Colorado, went to another academy, networked, landed a gig come that February after I got my certificate. So it's like, well, and I wiped my life off the face of the earth, dude. 2,000 square foot townhouse, gutted, foosball table, everything else sold, gone, furniture gone. I mean, got rid of the old Audi A4 that I had and picked up a $3,000 Subaru Outback wagon. Said, okay, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm outdoorsy. So I need my biking and my ski gear, right? So if I wasn't a fitness guy, I could have fit my life into 2 duffel bags.
Yeah.
But I had like 7. So I had some gear. So, but my life fit in my freaking car, dude. And I left for Arizona because I didn't know if I was ever going to come back. So just a very short skinny on what I did. But the point is, we can do that. I was 31. I was 31 when I did that. So a couple years older than you, but I hadn't bogged myself down with a big mortgage yet. I recognized that I wasn't happy and I needed more purpose. I had realized, wait a minute, the degree's done. So that big check mark is done. The resume looks great. I said, if this is not what I'm supposed to do, I can always come back, right? I didn't burn my bridges.
Right.
And the biggest piece of it was my question to myself was, what if? Like, what if I'm meant to do this? What if this is where I'm supposed to be? And I would kick myself if I didn't do it. But again, all of my closest friends, my colleagues, they're like, what are you doing, man? You finally got the degree. You could finally shove that in these companies' faces and say, see, my resume is finally complete. I got the degree too. And I'm like, now I'm an entrepreneur now. And I'm like, your fucking degree doesn't mean shit. I mean, if somebody really cares if you have a BS in marketing and psychology, I was like, everything that I'm using now in my business is not what I learned in school. So that's a whole different podcast. But I'm with you, man. It's you get this false sense of security, and people say, "Oh man, I got the great job and everything else." But guess what? That great job could end tomorrow. That company could fall into fraud tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, too, like on the topic of like purpose, and I get asked that a lot, like, claiming to know everything about purpose. I'm certainly not, but I think a lot of people, even on that journey of like figuring out, oh, what's my purpose? Like maybe it's like something I should pursue. It's like a job, or it's like a career. It's this thing. And for me, it's like a way of being. It's like a way to show up. And like, for me, that's like belonging. It's like, how do I power belonging? How do I make myself feel that? And like, how can I transition that to others? Like, that's different than like a mission. Like my mission is to like run men's groups for men to show up, in a bigger way. Like that's more of a mission versus purpose is just like a way of being. But most people, I think, what I want to do too, and I think you stand for this as well, and I love it, is like calling people out to start thinking about this stuff versus like getting too far down that secure, safe path.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, like embrace something soon, and start asking that question of like, what if? Well, what if I were to like maybe transition my hobby into something that could add value and make money and provide me freedom? Or like those questions are important. It has to happen now versus later. Yeah,
and I will. Let's be real. If this man that we could be talking to and that could be maybe possibly coming into the drop, if you got kids and a family, we're not saying you drop everything and rip the lid off. I mean, some people that works. You can still do this in an intelligent way. All we're saying is stop ignoring that part of yourself. I think too many people just push that down, and they've been ignoring it for so long that it becomes that ball in your stomach, and then it becomes this like acidic nut just eating away at your stomach walls, and it's not a good place.
Yeah, I mean, and it will show up in so many ways down the road. If you're in a relationship or family and not trusting you, because I think we're all called to do something, with our gifts and help other people, whatever. And if you're not doing that conflict, like that same conflict that I experienced, like, again, it was showing up for me in weird ways. Like my mood was weird. I was like a little bitter. It just started to come through me. Like, I'm like, this is conflict. I am not like honoring that I could pursue something that like I'm really passionate about, and I can't ignore that anymore. And the world can feel that. Like I could sense that, like there's less trust there, it's an integrity thing for sure. But the ripping the Band-Aid off, there's absolutely, well, think about it, right? Freelancer.com. There are so many ways to like make money and pay the bills.
Oh yeah.
While like creating something on the side.
Hustle.
Oh
side
my
hustle.
gosh.
Huh.
It's never been easier.
Dude, I was coaching CrossFit for the past like 2 years in my free time. And I just needed to take some time off a couple of months ago because I need to focus on these key projects that mean the most to me right now. I love coaching, and I've coached ski racing and cycling, and I was a corporate coach in my corporate days. On that ladder, I was coaching and developing employees and managing people. I've done a lot of coaching, but the point was, I was like, you know what, I need to focus. But one of the great things was one of my athletes, and he's a father. He's an engineer. So James, when you hear this, shout out. But I'm impressed by him, man. He's a father. He's got a family. He comes with the kids to the gym and gets in his workout, while the kids are there, and then goes home. I mean, he's figuring it out. Yeah. And then there was a couple of things that he wasn't exercising, and he and I casually chatted one day. I'm like, well, what if you started doing that on the side? I was like, it's your free time. You can do whatever the hell you want. And I was like, maybe you're not exercising all of his like skill sets in the engineering world with that one company, but he's got other powerful skill sets that could be done freelance. And then this is a few months ago now, but I remember it because he came in to a workout one day and he's like, hey man, he's like, I just want to say, I don't know if he's told me thank you or what. I forget how the conversation came up, but he's like, hey, so I took action on what we were talking about. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, there's another company that was needing some help. They were actually one of our clients, but I wasn't allowed to help them in that area because it had nothing to do with my job. And our company doesn't support that. So I went ahead and said, well, if you need help with that, I can help you with it. We'll just do it freelance. And he did it. And I was like, and he's like, dude, it was so cool to be able to say that I could do that. So that was one little thing. It's not a huge career yet. He doesn't have his own company yet, but he at least said, what if? And then he said yes to himself. And he ended up doing it and made a little side cash on the side.
Cheers to that.
Right? Now, that's cool. It's just, and if I had like one little, and this isn't a bragging right, it's more of a pride. I'm proud of him, man. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. You deserve it. You want to exercise that? Freaking go for it, man. Yeah. And maybe he did it and he doesn't want to do it anymore, but at least he did it.
At least he did it.
Yeah. So, real quick, I'm sharing this other link you had sent me. What's going on with this archetypes thing? Because I'm gonna embed this in the show notes for the blog article when your episode goes live. So you had sent me this link to the drop. It's a pages, the challenge.
I would say don't do that. That's okay. We rescheduled a few times, right? So this was I'm gonna fold this into.
You build this into your training?
Yeah, I'm gonna build it into the program.
Okay, then we're giving our listeners a little teaser then.
Yeah, oh no, why would you do that? No.
There's some archetypes. I tell people all the time, marketing best practice, brother, okay? You want people to get on your email list, for example, here's what you do. If you got something that you know is powerful, and it's probably some of the best nuggets of knowledge you got, give away some of your best stuff for free. It's something that Gary Vaynerchuk says all the time, right? Like, give them your best stuff, because then number one, it shows how transparent you're being, and number two, they're not always going to be able to take full action on that great stuff. And if they love it that much, they're going to want more and they're going to come back. So just throwing that out there.
I hear you. I have had a lot of time to play around with it. Yeah. It's, but anyway, it was set up, and I'll integrate it into probably a Facebook group as well. Like not all guys that I talk to, right, are going to, again, I'm only going to work with 12 guys next year. Everybody else, like, it's not like, hey, see you later. And we'll create a community and Facebook group, and
you can have you can have a public community that at least gets to casually build a relationship with you. Yeah. But then until that slot opens up, they're not going to be in the full immersion, 12-man group.
Yeah. So this the approach I'm taking is very, because again, like, there's other guys out there doing this stuff, the knowledge for men. There's a lot of information. Like, I'm very process. It is going to be nothing but more like deep dive on doing versus like knowledge stuff. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, that archetypes exercise takes kind of like regurgitates some Carl Jung archetype, subconscious work, and it kind of translates it into how do we create meaning on, parts of you that drive your behaviors, and we package meaning around that. And there's ways to look at that. And so anyway, that's what
I like
that
it.
was.
Well, and I love the fact you're working with archetypes, because back on episode 89, and actually let me just double check here. I think her name was Kylie Slavic. She's like a marketing person, but we actually titled that episode Archetypes and Storytelling, because they definitely go hand in hand. In case you ever want to dig deeper into like the whole archetypes thing from a marketing perspective for you and your brand, check her out, because she specializes in working with archetypes. And I love that episode with her. It was really fun.
Interesting.
Especially when it comes to online marketing and building yourself online, because you need to understand archetypes.
Yeah, it's the like ingrained personality in all of us. There's flavors of similar archetypes in all of us. So it's like if you speak to that part of somebody, yeah.
Well, listen, man, we've been rapping for a while.
I've enjoyed it.
Did you have some fun?
It was great.
Good.
Absolutely.
I feel a little extra masculine just hanging with you, man.
Yeah, you're running a great show, man. Great questions. Well, I could talk for hours.
Well, and that's the point. And that's what I want. I want my co-host to feel completely welcome, because it's going to benefit our audience. It's not about me. It's about the audience. You and I need to be super comfortable and have no problem talking. That way, if and when you need to come back or want to come back on, like, it feels like, oh man, I was just on, or something like that. And I want people to miss being on the show, because if it was a really good co-host, I've had some returns, because I'm into my second year now. So there's been people where I'm like, dude, I really enjoyed that. I want them to come back. So you don't always have to have brand new people. Like, I'm not John Lee Dumas that is like interviewing new entrepreneurs like 7 days a week. I was like, dude, wow. I don't know how the hell you do it.
That's crazy.
He's been doing it longer than most, so that's why that's his brand. So, but also I don't do a 20-minute show. Ours go 30, 60 minutes. I mean,
yeah, right.
I don't want to trim it off.
I hear you. Well, hey, if your door is open again to come back, I'd be glad to. I mean, we riff on anything, flow states, we talk about anything, man. I'm down for it.
We might have to talk offline. I got some ideas. I'll throw your way. So I love. Sometimes, when something starts clicking in my head, I just take action. But listen, to the benefit of our listeners, though, all of our co-hosts close out the show. If you remember Teo's episode, with the final words of the show, I like to give that honor to you. So obviously, if they aren't hopping right on TravisRoznos.com, which again, listeners, do it. While you share your final words, this is your chance. Just say, you know what? They forgot everything else you and I talked about today. Like, why should they be following you? What is your message that your purpose, your purposeful message, your masculine message? What is you're trying to leave behind, so they can remember this about you? And hopefully that'll drive them back to keeping in touch with you, following you, liking you, etc.
Yeah, it's, if you're listening to this podcast because you're into growth and you're into leveling up, and it's that this pursuit of actually surrounding yourself with like other people that are on the same journey, like that's the place where change comes in. That's the place where the discipline and the awareness comes in, where, you can essentially self-author your life. I mean, that's what I'm promoting. I mean, that's what this stands for. And, if you're a man and you're trying to like make sense of, again, what it means to be a man, like this is a deep dive. And everything I stand for is a very, very deep dive, from history to your personal experience to how other men see you, how the world sees you. So again, that, the drop is, again, it just represents that delayering of it. And it's the group. It's really all about the group structure that's required to create change and find purpose and how to carry that out. So that's the spiel, the drop, and yeah, I've enjoyed, Scott, being on the show. Live the fuel. Appreciate that.
Well, you've been a welcomed addition, man. I appreciate it. So
absolutely.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's Travis Roznos, okay? Check him out at TravisRoznos.com. It is The Drop, a man's pursuit of purpose through masculine practice. And if you didn't hear it earlier, he's looking for 12 guys, man. 12 guys ready to dig deep and really start changing your lives. So make sure you follow him. Everything is going to be linked into the show notes, all of his social media profiles. You go to follow him online, and then obviously reach out to him when you're ready to get deeper into your own drop. So to our listeners, again, thanks for listening in. This is another powerful Live the Fuel episode. Thank you so much, Travis, for bringing a lot of new energy and masculinity to this podcast today. So hang tight. I want to give you a proper goodbye. But again, to our listeners, thank you again for listening in. That's another Live the Fuel show. Keep living the fired up, epic life. And we'll talk to you guys again soon. And you're clear of the pod. So now it's just a video. I just let it go till we hang up.
Gotcha.
So you have some fun, man. I appreciate it.
It's awesome.
So
I love it, man.
So my idea is this. Number one, I'm going to get you connected into my other buddy's Facebook community, which is known as Men of Abundance. So you familiar with Wally Carmichael?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So, and his is like it's public / closed group. It's not like a paid community, but he only wants people. It's exactly what you're doing, dude. He only wants men in his community that understand that in order to become more abundant, you need to give back to your fellow man. Nice. So I'm like, as soon as you started talking, I'm like,
love that.
Okay, I got to connect you with Wally, and
cool.
Wally has his own podcast.
Nice, would love that. I appreciate that.
And he unfortunately has the really hard lifestyle of having to live in Hawaii.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, he's really got a rough life. I mean, I'm always checking in on him. I'm always worried about him. Yeah, he's doing all right.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but it's funny because he's American, but I found out about him through my buddy's podcast in the UK. So it's just, you never know how the full circle comes about. And,
yeah. Are you looking for anybody in particular coming up? I want to make sure that if I find somebody that would be like, that'd be Scott.
As I hinted, I was like, dude, we discussed. It's very easy for me to bring on co-hosts because we talk about health, business, and lifestyle. Yeah. So if you can't find a way to wrap your brain around those three areas, which everybody's affected by, then totally. I guess I didn't build my show right.
It's great.
But I do love it when I bring on people who have energy and have passion. I don't want some kind of boring robot on the show. That's the only thing that I tell people. Like, listen, if you haven't picked up on my energy, I have no shortage of it. So
no. I feel like we even tamed it down. Like I'm ready to rip it open anytime.
Well, and that's what I want to give back to my co-hosts too. Like I've had people literally tell me that too, and that makes me feel good because man, I feel like I got to go and write a book or something. I don't.
Fuck, dude. I'm seriously, man. I love it, man. You're Yeah, I appreciate the good mirror, the feedback on it too. Like you led very well. I felt super comfortable in the conversation, which I think obviously lets the thing just sort of unfold naturally, which is great.
Well, then I'm trying to be a good host, so that makes.
I learned a few things, man. The whole thing was great.
I think you're going to really roll with that word approachability, aren't you?
There's a lot in there for me. There's
so many ways you can go with that definition.
It's a huge tip, man. I've always my wall has always sort of been candidly, I never met my father. I was just raised by my mother. She was never really around. And so it was always like fists were up. Like I'm going to just prove everybody fucking wrong, myself, it was just it wasn't like my life was hard, but look, single parent, the odds are usually against you. Society's numbers say like my life could have been filled with violence and a lot of other things.
It could have been worse. True.
It could have been way worse, but my growing up, my thing was just I'm going to work harder and I'm just going to I'm going
to prove everybody wrong.
I'm going to, this underdog mentality. So big time. So the approachability thing way, man. For me has always been a thing. I need to be more approachable and be, there's a lot in there for me,
Dude, I'm still guilty of it from time to time too. My fiance is actually good at catching me on it. She'll be like, Scott, you're doing your thing. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you don't need to prove yourself. She's like,
right? Yeah. And you're a smart guy. You're an intellect, and I can see that.
It's my. You can't help it, dude. Once you're a driven person, it's good to have people like she tells me all the time, which it still rubs me wrong, but I love her for it. She's like, Scott, you're a visionary, and I'm a realist. She's like, I live in reality. And I was like, it just stabs me, but it's good. It's good to have that somebody to kind of balance you. And
that's awesome.
If I'll highly recommend possibly something to add into your program is, have you ever done the analysis from StrengthsFinder?
Travis, isn't that his name? The guy that the 2.0, the
Tom Rath, StrengthsFinder 2.0.
That's the guy.
Yeah. Have you ever done this?
I actually haven't done that.
Dude, are you kidding me?
It's like an automatic. Yeah.
Well, I'm literally doing this with a client next week on her entire business team. I'm making them all go through this because and he's got a more advanced, he's actually got a more advanced book once you've done this StrengthsFinder for leadership. But the beauty of this is you literally, like I'm printing out worksheets and stuff for her team right now. But the insight guide, long story short, you have to buy the physical book because they give you an online code.
Yeah.
That's your code. Nice. And it's a Gallup's analysis. You've heard of like the disc profiles and all these different, analysis tests you can take online. But this is probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. And I've used all of them over the years with my old employees and everything else.
Yeah.
But you don't read the whole book. You take all the online testing and then it spits back your top 5 strengths.
Yeah.
And those are the chapters that you focus on in this book. Just those 5 chapters.
Gotcha.
To get you to finally embrace and own the strengths you bring forth naturally. Because too many of us are focusing on the weaknesses.
Right.
And it's like, dude, especially once you're 30, 40, or even late 20s, dude, once you're out of school and everything else, like, why are you wasting all this time on your natural weaknesses when you should be focusing on and channeling the natural strengths that you bring forth and who you are?
That's what it's all about.
And then you talk to any entrepreneur that's successful, the classic quote is you finance the strengths, you outsource the weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and I have that covered, but I'm sure I'm blind to a ton.
And I just think it's powerful because like the team building exercise I'm going to run through next week is going to be focused on helping everybody realize that there's going to be people on the team that might have some similar strengths, but a lot of people have different ones. And then to teach her as a business owner how to play everybody's strengths as a benefit. It's like, wait a minute, you have so-and-so working on that project actually plays more naturally into that person's strength area. Right. And so but it's more than just business, dude. Like they actually, in the chapters they get into how it applies to life, romance, and business. It's not like just all work related, but I recommend it. I mean, it's not an expense. It's like a $28.
Well, it's one of those books where it's been recommended so many times. It's been around forever. I've seen it 1,000 times. I've always passed on it. I don't know.
Oh, and just so you know, my top 5 strengths are positivity. I'm a wooer because I've worked in sales. Back to my point of reality. I'm futuristic, so I'm a visionary. Okay. I'm self-assured and communication.
I see mine are pretty much going to be exactly like that. Pretty much, yeah.
More than likely. So, but then that also is powerful because it's like, that could be how you're also filtering and drawing and attracting the right people for your group, right? You're probably going to be looking for like-mindedness. So,
for sure. Yeah. There's going to be an orientation that's going to be pretty similar, I imagine, from not just all attracted, and I want that too, the commitment level of it. But I would say too, like any just post my website. Yeah, just like keep the Facebook. I don't know, whatever. If I gave you Facebook or whatever, I would say just post my website on the thing. But other than that,
from a Google SEO benefit, I tell people like if you have online profiles, I will list them all because in the Google world. Yeah. Google likes it when websites are pointing and connecting people to other websites. So when things are hyperlinking and bouncing around, it makes Google happy. So I'm just giving you that as an example. So like when you start blogging more, don't be afraid to hyperlink stuff back to Wim Hof or other sites who have more traffic than you.
Right.
Yeah. That's part of the process. So
totally.
But is there anything else I can give back to you, man, and help you with what your mission and what you're trying to do here? Besides, obviously, I'll connect you with Wally and his podcast. So,
no, I mean that's great. So, like, what's your core business outside of the podcast?
Personal branding.
You're doing a lot of that. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm literally a friend of mine through my nutrition business world. She's a world champion kettlebell athlete. So I just signed her on this month. I was actually already going to be training under her. Learning the art of the kettlebell, like the way it's done around the world, not here, not the kettlebell you see at a traditional gym. Like these are the big. All the kettlebells are actually the same size,
Yeah.
They're just weighed differently from the inside, massive handles. But she competes. She just got done winning like 4 medals in Seoul, South Korea. She's right here in New Jersey, an hour from me.
Wow.
But I've met her a couple times at conferences. I went to a Millionaire Blueprint conference with her, and then we were talking one day, and she's literally going to bring the sport of kettlebell, the way it's competed around the world, here to the U.S. So she's launching a whole new brand called Kettlebell Sport USA. Her website's been in development for a year, and it's still not done yet. And I got on a call with her and started literally giving her some verbal whips, so to speak. And I was like, and she's like, she's like, wait, this is what you do?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I never knew. And I was like, oh, we never asked.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
I'm not always trying to sell people on what I do. So I like to help people grow their brands and grow who they are. So
That's
she's
great.
like, done. She's like, you are my new strategist. Here's my web person contact information. She's like, please. She's like, crack the whip on me. Tell me what I'm not doing.
When you said nutritional, did you
Yeah, I have a nutrition business.
Like supplements or?
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't mention it on the podcast. I was like, keep it focused, but it's like my buddy has spent 2 years building out a superfood, like in capsules, like 34 superfoods microdosed into capsules.
Yeah, I've heard of stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just starting to blow up on Amazon. So he's bringing me on to do some marketing for him as well next year.
Nice.
So we're kind of, the branding of it is not great, but it's more about the
people once people get drawn to the money so quickly and they start focusing on the product that they forget that there's a brand that the product needs to stand on. Because who you are and who the company is will come into question. And that needs to be pure and that needs to be strong because especially in the supplement world, dude, you got to watch out for that shit.
Totally.
I literally, I have a regular co-host on my show, Vinny Tortorich, very successful podcaster. He's now guest co-host on Adam Carolla's show twice a month. And Adam Carolla got the most successful podcast show next to Joe Rogan. Wow. So, but Vinny launched his own vitamin company. So I buy. It's funny because my business is built on the network marketing model. It's with Isogenics, and I've had that since I was firefighting. So it's not one of my primary businesses. I love their products, and I've helped a lot of people get healthy with them, and I like it. But sure. I'm also open to the fact that they're not the end all be all, and they're not perfect. And like I said, Vinny launched probably the purest vitamin that I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen vitamins made this way because usually there's some kind of crap being put in to hold it together.
Fillers. There's always fillers on it. His
have no fillers. He literally developed, I think he patented it. He developed a sublingual that you put under your tongue, B vitamin. No one else has this, and there's no fillers in it. So, because as soon as you put it on the tongue, it starts disintegrating. But he literally had to buy the special equipment and give it to the manufacturer outsourcer that he's using because they couldn't do what he wanted to do. Like crazy stuff, dude. He's literally working on a D vitamin, and D has to be carried by fats. It's a fat soluble vitamin. And he and I are both connected with I order my olive oil straight from Italy. I don't trust anything here in this country. And I've had the founders on the show. They sponsor his show. They gave me, for my listeners, my own discount code. So when people go on their website to villacapelli.com, if they put fuel in, they get 10% off of whatever they order. So these guys, I'm always sharing their stuff because it's the best tasting olive oil I've ever had in my life because it literally comes straight from their farm in Italy.
From the source.
It's crazy. So
do you have a sponsor on the show?
No, I haven't gotten that. I don't want to do that yet. Like people are like, oh, what? My fiance, she's like, oh yeah, when you gonna monetize? I'm like,
well, I mean,
technically, if I'm getting clients, I'm monetized. So, yeah, do I recommend a couple products here and there because I believe in them and I use them? Yeah, like I have. If people go to my resources page on my website, I have Pure Vitamin Club there. I have Isogenics there. I have Villa Capelli there. And in case you don't know about it, healthiest freaking nut on the planet is from the Philippines. He's a for-purpose business model. It's called eatpillynuts.com.
What the hell is that?
It's a pilly nut. It's from obviously Philippines, but it is a like hundreds of feet tall jungle tree. So it's actually a tree nut from the jungles of the Philippines that are grown in like volcanic soil. The magnesium and healthy fats are through the fucking roof. It is
Right. Interesting.
And he does not roast them, he sprouts them. So it keeps all their natural occurring health like intact. And my fiance will not eat any nuts. She's obsessed with these things. So, hey, and I will tell you, when I looked at the healthy fats profile and the magnesium, I was blown away. But if you go check out eatpillynuts.com, dude. But that guy, I've had him on the show. Vinny's had him on his show. He's a guy from Oregon that went over there doing some humanitarian work years ago and tasted that nut out of like a local farmer's market and said, well, I could probably do this in a healthier way and bring this back to the States. And it's keto friendly, paleo friendly, and we're blowing him up. Like when I first brought him on the show, he had like 100 followers on Instagram, and that was it. I think he's got a few thousand now, so he's slowly blowing it up too.
Nice.
But I say he doesn't sponsor the show. Now, granted, I'll order nuts, and then all of a sudden he'll just ship me a whole load of free stuff. Like I think I've only paid for like 50% of the stuff that I bought. Like we just went to South Africa a few weeks ago. I told him I was going over there, and I told him I told him I'll post photos of his bags. So he ships me like a huge box. He's like, "Here you go. Here's all the nuts for your 2-week trip."
So, that's awesome, dude. That's great, man. The podcasting thing is if you're just networking and you're just having conversations, it truly is.
I tell people all the time, like one of my new goals once I hit the 1-year barrier was I said, well, I have over 100. Now I have over 130, approaching 140 shows online. So it's like just that network alone. Yeah, there's no reason why I can't get one co-host connected to another co-host, whether it be through networking, through mutual podcasting, whatever. And I've been doing that ever since. Every podcast like you, I'm halfway through a show and I'm already thinking out who can I get him connected with? Because
what's the co-host thing again? You're just using the language around it?
Because I don't like interviews. I'm a marketing.
It frames it up in a different way.
And I'm teaching people marketing. What sounds better? Oh, I got to go on somebody's show and get interviewed, or I got to co-host the Live the Fuel show.
Yeah, totally.
Authority.
Definitely.
So I'm giving away
I love that.
Authority to my guests. So some people get it, some people don't.
That's
people will share the episode like, hey, I was on Live the Fuel. I got interviewed on Live the Fuel. I'm like, that's not what I told you. But I'm like, hey, if that's what you want to word it as, that's fine. But as far as I refer to all of my co-hosts as co-hosts,
I like the co-host thing.
Yeah, that's and cool. Because also nobody's doing it. It's I
haven't heard that either. So that's what I thought you were doing. And I was like, that's cool. That's
but
smart.
You have to build the show around that format. And that's, So this show allows that. It allows you to know that from minute one, you're coming on as a co-host, not being interviewed by me.
You were asking me questions, but I did another podcast.
But see, those questions came naturally. They came naturally.
He just like peppered me with questions. So it was awkward. And it was like,
And he didn't allow you to, you'll notice, like I have no problem stroking my own ego on this one. Like the podcast has really helped me get better at conversations. It's taught me to slow down and listen a little bit. And also like, wait a minute, he never got a chance to go deeper on that. I got to get him back to that point. Job of that. Because I wanted to hear more of where you were going. So
I knew it was going to be dialed because when I listened to you talk to Taya, you were really on that. I was like, okay, this is the real deal.
Taya's also a great guy, man. I love what he's doing.
Yeah, man, he is.
His brand's blowing up there in the city. I got to get up there. I got to see this that show or whatever he created.
It's like a reality African American reality TV in the city.
African millennials or something like that. Afro millennials. I'm like, what? I was like,
it seems like legit. Like, I don't know where it's distributed necessarily. I think it's just
all I know is whoever they hired for the photography and the video work just on social media is looking great. I mean, he's always dressed to the nine. It's cool. It's cool. So,
totally.
I love helping him out.
Well, I want to stay in touch, man. And
before I forget, so you're launching your program in June.
Yeah.
Okay. How many other podcasts have you been on?
One other podcast.
All right. Is this one of your new initiatives? You're trying to get out there more?
Yeah, I see podcast. I see this channel being one of the more no like trust scenarios that I can do for
All
sure.
right. So this may be spontaneous, but I also just trust my gut and I go with shit, maybe head to the heart thing. What if we entertained you as a possible regular co-host
On your podcast?
Yeah. Like,
I think
even if it's just once a month, because I take this stuff seriously, and I've been back and forth on this. And I have two other regular co-hosts I bring on regularly. One, they're local here. One is a sports nutritionist, and one is a sports psychologist. And they're both younger millennials trying to grow their brands as professionals. And I love their messaging. So, I mean, Dr. Megan Cannon's awesome, and Aaron Sparrowwood is a sports nutritionist. We have a blast, and we have a lot of fun. And they're local, so it's a little bit easier. So sometimes we get to do some live podcasts. But I've been back and forth. I was like, as the show grows, I'm always keep my back in mind. I'm like, what if I added another? And let's be real, it would make my life easier, because if I have another regular co-host, I know that's one less episode that I have to try and like add into the mix. But it also has to fit the show, and it has to have the right energy, and it has to have the right education. And that's the big piece here. And plus, like I said, I like helping people grow their brands. And I like your angle because, number one, I like the Wim Hof method. I'm not licensed in it. You are. You're trying to grow a brand based off the Wim Hof method. I would love to share more about and learn more about the method anyways. And I'm sure my listeners would too. And so I'm just like, that's why I had like 2/3 through the show, I was like, that could be cool. But I was like, I think I've bounced off you. If you want to think about it, let me know. So,
I mean, I love the idea, and whatever ideas you have in regards to like, that role, like, they interview. Are you on the show with them when they do it, or are they?
No, it's you and me. Like,
right.
It's Megan and I once a month. It's Aaron and me once a month, and occasionally those two come on together. I haven't done more than that.
I mean, I love the idea. I'm honored that you would even ask me.
Well, because I dug into what you're doing, and I mean, it's still new and fresh, but it was just cracking me up, like corporate ladder crap, Arizona connection. I'm not a single parent, but I mean, I'm loving that piece too. But we never got to get into that piece too. Like I was already thinking, shit, we never got to dig into that piece of it. I was like, he's got some more stories to share. And plus, it actually allows you then to give you some, we'll just call it free marketing, as you get closer to your 12-man launch. And that will eventually become like a story to share as well. But I think more people need to understand more about these men's groups. So, I mean, this is not a men-dominated show, but I was just looking at my YouTube demographics the other day, and I'm split right down the middle on YouTube. I'm 50-50 men, women. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah.
It is interesting.
And I've dug deeper into the men's group thing, and I've found that shows that are male-dominated have a lot of female listeners too, because they're trying to understand more about us crazy guys.
Yeah. I hear you.
Right.
My other thing is, which is, this is great. I love the idea is, I'm going to create a Facebook page, because I know, as you were talking about the brand and the name and all that stuff, like my name needs to sit on top, and on Facebook, I'll be promoting the Wim Hof method and then some things about masculinity and just my daily life. But my Facebook page represents like men's coach, Wim Hof method instructor, and the Wim Hof method instructor stuff needs to be fairly consistent, because I need to be able to run ads and fill those workshops. So all I'm saying is whatever look, all of your topics and whoever you're putting on there, it's all relevant to the lifestyle, health, conscious community. So there's that play too. Obviously I would be distributing whatever you're doing.
If nothing else, you're scoring fresh content that you sort of had to help create, but you didn't actually have to, you didn't even have to create it.
I'm not a content guy. Like I'm coming into this, by the way, Scott, like I'm not trying to blog every day, like all that stuff. Like I'm kind of anti that.
I hate blogging. I mean,
I do think a lot of like, I look at a lot.
It's valuable. I just can't sit down and write. I don't like it. So
there's a lot of that. Like
that's why I podcast.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I love Facebook Live. I love video.
Do you do Facebook Lives? Oh, hell yeah. Lives? You're probably the guy that like you're driving, right?
I've done that. Yeah. I literally had a buddy of mine a mountain bike with, and he's like, I saw a comment pop up while I'm driving down the road, but I'm not trying to stare at the phone. And then later he's just like, hey man, maybe you should focus on driving and not doing a Facebook Live. And I was like, the phone is mounted on the dashboard. I'm not holding on to anything. Occasionally I'm looking, but I mean, I am driving down the road, focusing on the road. So, but yeah, I mean, until that becomes illegal, I don't give a shit.
You're totally millennial, man. Z generation. Or
yeah,
whatever.
I'm a 40-year-old millennial.
Yeah, that's exactly what you are, actually. Doing Facebook Lives, driving, millennial.
Yeah.
Exactly what you are.
Except that I have a clean driving record. So, but to your benefit here, like for example, like I never had my own personal named page, but when I started doing public speaking this year, not everybody wants to friend me. So I have my Live the Fuel page, but then I launched the Scott Mulvaney page. So to just increase, I mean, I don't do a ton of posting there. I probably haven't posted since. I'm not really that consistent, but anytime I've gone to events or I've done public speaking, I will post stuff here now. Nice. Versus Live the Fuel, right? Live the Fuel has a lot of podcast content, a lot of motivational content, but now I'm just going to be trying to drive more. Like every time I've been on stage or rocking with a mic that's not podcast related, I'm posting content here. So, but that to your point, if you're looking to do a page, like that's an example. And then for now, I added in the whole hyphen speaker because that's just, I'm playing around with that. I'm like, it'd be cool to grow a brand, a side brand off of people just wanting to get access to me, not necessarily Live the Fuel, but just, I want to grow some of that as a new career, right? Getting paid to do public speaking.
Right.
So to your point, having a page to send people to in case you don't want to friend them, even though I accept most friendships because I'm approaching 5,000, but I haven't maxed out my 5,000 yet. And my one influencer, he says, listen, he's like, listen, when it comes to people trying to friend you on Facebook, he's like, you can tell if they're a spammer or not. And he's like, I go off of this rule. He's like, you're innocent until proven creepy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like that. That's pretty good. He's like, listen, I'll accept your friendship, but you better try and connect legitimate with me, and you better not start spamming me or become a creeper, or you're gone.
There's a lot of that on LinkedIn. I want to use LinkedIn a lot too. There's a lot of
I've been on LinkedIn since it was founded.
Yeah, LinkedIn is
long time
is amazing, but there's a lot of that, like constantly added by people I don't know and shit. I'm like,
it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. They're getting more shareable, more content you can get out there. I don't publish because you can publish your own articles there now. I don't, but I mean when this episode goes up, you will get blasted on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I put it everywhere. Because I can't count on all my co-hosts to actually post. But if they do and they beat me to it, great, I will share your post instead of me having to write it, because I would rather share. I tell people all the time, like, that's what you want. You want other people writing about you or talking about you. That way you don't have to self-promote, and then all you got to do is share the content. So
yeah, I mean, again, in my work with Tayo too, like we dug into this stuff, and I saw a lot of guys, I spent 2 years blogging and I'm running men's groups. And I'm like, I want to just get guys in the men's group. Like, I can't be just like talking about shit all day long. And so I want to write content, but pitch it to Men's Health and shit. Like, I'll blog on my own site, but at the end of the day, I think I can be valuable to other sources and then grow it that way. If that's selfish, but it's just the way, I don't know.
I've had a lot of independent male entrepreneurs like yourself lately too, that are like, I've been published on Huffington Post and Inc. and la 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 la. And I'm like, okay, but what are you telling me now? I don't care about that. Like, what are you gonna bring forth today? Can you connect with my audience? Can you talk on these 3 areas? And most of them can. So it's very rare if I have to turn somebody away. Some guy reached out to me over LinkedIn and now his email spamming me, trying to see if I would talk about him and his new some kind of supplement. I don't know. Sounds close to what you're talking about. And I'm like, dude,
that's tough.
You and I have never had a conversation, and you're immediately bringing in your company and your product into the conversation. You and I haven't actually had a contact. I was like, you have no right. I was like, so no. I was like, because you burned your bridge from minute one. This is not how you connect with people. Right. You build a relationship first. Yeah. Sales 101. I'm not going to buy from a stranger. So, like I said, we can geek out about this for a while. Man, that's why I was like, dude, I was like, I'm digging the energy, and but it's also got you also have to have obviously the availability, and I don't want to force something like that on someone. Like, it sounds like, I'm not saying you have all this free time, but I'm like, okay, dude, if you can handle at least 1 episode a month, I think that's totally something viable. And who knows, maybe we change the format and it becomes more regular. I've had people ask me like, oh, do you have, because like Vinny, Vinny always has somebody on with him. He's either has a guest, like one of his followers, or he has two regular co-hosts, Anna Vocino, who did the voiceover for my show, and his co-founder of the vitamin company now that he launched last year, Andy Schreiber. They've been best friends for years. These two are always on his show. They're on every single week. There's always an episode with Andy.
That's cool.
And there's always an episode with Anna. So
I guess, like that whole, you used to listen to Howard Stern, right? And he's got all the hosts and stuff. I guess I haven't even heard that on podcasts. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
No, it does, because especially if you do it in the right way, like it's not about me. If I was going to bring another guest co-host on, like I want to help. I like what Megan and Aaron stand for. So I want to help level their brand up, because now when you Google their names, like my show comes up a lot in the content because they've been on my show multiple times. So like I'm getting recognized through their names too. I don't care. I just know that they didn't have a lot of online content, and now they do, because they are airing, they've been on the show for over 6 months now. So there's, there's at least, they haven't gone on this month yet. So we might miss this month, but for the most part, I've been trying to get them on like every single month.
I love it, man. And as long as, I'm focused on bringing value to your audience and we're delivering on that, like that would make, that's your expectation. I understand that. And that's what I want to deliver on if we do that. So,
yeah. Well, all right. So takeaway from today is, if we were going to bring you back on, I would say let's bring you back on like right away in January again. And let's think about, you think about that. Think about what you would want to see out of it, what kind of topics, because that's why I would be bringing you on. It's not what I want. It's how can we connect what you know and what you're trying to do to fuel the audience, right? We're fueling health, business, and lifestyle. Fuel's my power word. So
yeah, man.
I would want to make sure that you can align. And I know I'm not worried about you aligning with that. But then, like I said, we're not looking at building a templated show. But right before Megan and I talked, she's like, "Well, are we going off the cuff like we usually do, or is there something big that's bothering you right now?" And like Aaron, we aired 3 episodes with 2 different biologists and Aaron back to back on the whole coconut oil and American Heart Association debacle. So that was cool because she got to be aligned with 2 other shows from authors and biologists. So it helped level her up on that topic.
Well, dude, there were 40 people with me in Colorado at that Wim Hof Instructor thing. They all own gyms. Like there's a bunch of guys that are psychotherapists. They're like, there's a wealth of guys already popping in my head where I'm like, you should have them on the fucking show. That would be sick.
Oh, dude, I love bringing on the gurus, because then it's like, usually they reinforce what I already know. And so now it's like, oh, great. It's no longer Scott saying it. Look, I'll just go listen to that episode. It's not me blowing smoke. That guy said it.
That's cool. Well, I love the idea, man. You lead me in how we go from here, and I'll follow suit on however. But I'm honored and I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, then, so let's just go ahead and plan on going with our first return opportunity after New Year. If it works out scheduling wise, we could always record before the New Year, like, depending on what our schedules look like over the next couple of weeks. So. But you just go ahead and plan on finding a time on the calendar, just like you did with this. Like, go on the calendar. Let's find a date. Okay. Let's schedule it. We'll record, and then we'll figure out what week we'll air it. We'll think about a theme, because we have to air this episode first. This episode will definitely be up before the end of the year, so you'll be going up this month. Don't worry about that. I might put it up sooner rather than later, just to kind of spread us out a little bit. That way, it builds some steam. Before
let me know when it goes down, because then I'll put it up on my website too, and I'll get rolling on my Facebook page and shit like that too. So the one in January, would it be me and you again, or would it be me, you, and somebody else?
No, if we did it the way I do with Megan and Aaron, it would just be you and me.
Gotcha.
And this becomes just a new theme within the show. Like, hey, once a month we're going to be getting manly, or I don't know. we're virtual manliness. I don't know. We can have all
virtual man cave. It's the virtual man cave.
Dude, we could literally create a theme off of that. Not because, again, you were trying to figure out a way to create another public community. Who knows? So, all right. So takeaways from today is, did I already add you into the fuel tank on Facebook? That's my group.
Is it a closed Facebook group?
Well, you can request to join, but when you signed up for the show, the survey, there was a link in there for you to click on and actually join it. And then, but I don't know. Sometimes people figure that out and some people don't.
Yeah, I don't know if I did or not.
I haven't actually tried searching for it in a while because I just bought the domain. So it's livethefueltank.com and it takes you right to the Facebook group. Another little trick if you are trying to get people to find your groups better. Just make a domain name for it so people can just type it in directly. But I can obviously search for it because I own it. But all right, Travis. Are we friends? Yeah, we're friends.
That I feel like we are.
And if you weren't added, I think I just did. Yeah. I don't think you were added. Now you are. Because Wally's in there. And but I'm going to reach out to Wally. I'll reach out to Wally. I'm going to send an email introduction to you both. That's how I introduce people for a warm fuzzy. And say, hey, I think it'd be a great opportunity to bring you on the show. Wim Hof, yada, yada, yada. And then I'll see if I can get you added into his group. And you guys can build the relationship from there as well. So, and that'd be kind of cool. I should bring on, the next episode could just be you and I, but maybe we eventually then start bringing in once you and I got a regular thing going, maybe we bring on a third co-host, like a guest co-host to get manly or get masculine or whatever, with you and I. And really, it's really more of you, right? You need to shine on that episode because that's your episode. And I actually am just there, hosting as the host, obviously, but I try and let Megan shine more and Aaron shine more, but it's always open conversation, open format. So I don't know. I got inspired and I was like, dude.
Well, and if you have ideas of who you'd want to bring on, I can go after them. I mean, John is my coach. Like John's on the more spiritual side of things, but he's very, very well known. And
what do you think he would want to talk about? I mean, he can connect on health, business, and lifestyle. So,
well, yeah. I mean, John is, he's been on Man Talks. He's been on Jason Gaddis. But I mean, he does the men's group stuff, but then he runs like huge couples spirit, like intimacy relating workshops and programs. So a lot of stuff for him, like publicly, is relationships, intimacy, and stuff like that. But anyway,
that's cool.
In the world of like this world, you know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of, people out there.
I like it. I like his last quote that he had posted on December 8th too. When a warrior learns to toss self-importance aside, his spirit unfolds jubilant, like a wild animal liberated from its cage and set free. Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah, John's an animal, man. He's a force of nature. There's no doubt about it.
Well, hey, like I said, I'm always looking for new talent to come on. So you can. So let's do it. If you think he would appreciate that and that helps build your relationship stronger, set up an intro. Let him know. Let him know. Hey, Scott's open to have you come on if you're open to it. So, because now you know how the show goes. And you can explain to him exactly what he's going to get out of it. So
yeah. So let's so I should book a time on your schedule. Is what I should
find
do.
Time, obviously, just like you did. For us, because it doesn't have to be in January. We could record it in the next couple of weeks, and still, definitely not next week. Next week, I got so much going on with that.
Well, then we got Christmas, and then I'm driving to Austin on the 28th, so we're definitely looking at after the 1st.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but if we record like first week of January, then you're gonna get aired in the next probably 2. I try and keep my stuff pretty current, so I'm not like Johnny Dumas where I've got shit reserved for like 3 months. Like usually people's shows are going out within like 2 weeks. That way it's fresh, it's current. Especially if I'm getting somebody right before a book launch or something like that, I'm trying to get them out there and get their content up. So
right on.
But I'd be honored to bring on your mentor. It'd be cool to learn from him and help our followers learn more about him as well. So, and then obviously one day I would love to be able to get Wim Hof on. That'd be sick.
You would want to go Wim Hof on it? Yeah.
I don't know if he goes on podcasts.
He's on dude, that's how this whole thing blew up. He went on, pretty sure it was Rogan or.
Yeah, he had to have been on Rogan.
He's gone on, when he went on Onnit's huge podcast.
Yeah.
And then, so his thing kind of just started to unfold from there.
No, because My first taste of the icing was when
He's crazy.
I did a go ruck last year. I don't know if you know what go rucks are.
The hell is that?
Okay, I've done Spartan racing and Tough Mudders and everything else. Now, a go ruck is straight up military. So a former military professional runs the event, but every man and woman has to show up with like I think I had 40 to 50 pounds in my pack, and that is your life for the next 24 hours. And it's whatever they throw at you, you got to fucking do it. So
I bet you just love that.
It was, I mean, at 3 o'clock in the morning, he had us doing flutter kicks, laying in an ice cold creek, and then had a speed hike up the hill into a baseball field, and then had us roll around in the sand. So all the sand got stuck to all the wet parts on your body.
Oh.
Then he's like, "Oh, guys, a grenade went off nearby, so there's dirt, flying in over your head. So everybody throw the sand in the air." So he made sure that sand got everywhere. So the next 10 hours of the hike was just wet, sandy grit crap all up in your. It was.
Oh my gosh!
By the end of that 24 hours, you're sweaty, you're beat down. There was rolled ankles and injured. I mean, it was.
Spiritually questioning everything.
It was good. I haven't been that beat up since I was a wildland firefighter. When
you love the adrenaline. It was good. Fucking loved it, didn't you? Yeah.
It was good. You're sleep deprived. They're running you through rescue operations. Like all of a sudden the person next to you they're injured. So now we got to carry that person till the end. So people are taking turns. They're piggyback riding. They're firemen carrying them. You take their pack off. Now you're carrying your pack and that person's pack.
Yeah.
It's a whole brand now. There's actually specially designed.
Oh, those races, that whole world.
It's not a race.
Blown up.
Yeah, it's not a race. This is not
just
a
punishment.
Race.
This is just punishment.
And there's different tiers. I did Go Ruck Tough. There's Go Ruck. Whatever the next one's above that, where it's more weight. It's like 80 pounds. And like Go Ruck literally has invented their own backpacks for this, because I had a brand new backpack that was supposedly mil spec, and it was destroyed by the end of the night. Like it was brand new, gone. Yeah. So they had these high tensile strength backpacks, and you can actually buy special Go Ruck plates, because you want the weight close. There's a whole technique to all this, but you want the weight close to your back, because they make you take the packs off, and you're literally holding them over your head for 10 minutes. Like they're trying to break you.
Oh,
yeah. So,
I can tell you loved it. It's hilarious.
It's great. And these things go on like year round. Like they're in DC. They're in all these different cities.
Yes.
There's one that just went on up in Boston. It was snowing and icing up there. I was like, dude, I'm glad I didn't go to that one.
Right.
Oh
man. Well, dude, thanks again for having me
great,
on.
man.
It's been awesome hanging out. And
but yeah, think about like if this inspires you and motivates you, and you can generate some new content for you. I say we move forward with it and let's rock out.
It sounds amazing. I mean, I'm racking my brain, like nervous system stuff, all this stuff I love it.
I've been looking for something fresh and new, and when something clicks, I just take action on it. I'm like, if it burns me later, lesson learned. If it ends up being awesome, then even better.
As long as you lay out your expectations, I will be on my word with those expectations.
And the biggest thing is, even though we joke around that I'm a millennially styled Gen Xer, but you are actually a part of my target audience. You are a millennial. So I think it's even more valuable that if I can bring, because so's Megan and so's Aaron. So it's like, okay, my regular guest co-hosts are in the target audience, and you guys are all becoming influencers in
that's
that
really
target
smart,
audience.
Man. No, I mean, I've got a few friends that run in,
and I just become a vehicle, dude.
Shit. Yeah,
I just want to be the vehicle. That's it. And because I tell people all the time, if you could help enough other people, we've all heard this, right? You help enough other people become successful, you don't worry about it. You'll go right along with it. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it. I'm already happy and successful. I mean, I wouldn't mind if keep leveling up, but I'm already at that point where it's like, no, I want people to know this show is more than just quality information, but people are being brought up with it. They're being leveled up with it. And
that's cool.
That's just been something new popping in my head as we approach the end of the year.
That's solid, man. Live the fuel. Live in the fucking fuel. Let's
That's
go.
it, baby. That'll be a new shirt for 18. Live in the fucking fuel.
Live in the fucking fuel. All right. Oh man, I'm fucking jazzed. Thank you.
Well, hey man, I already started branding shit, so I got a custom
I love
Yeti.
it, dude.
Yeah,
swag. Oh, I'm gonna have to hit you up on some of the swag then.
Well, I haven't done that. That's just mine. That's my prototype. So I did just I just sent my logo off to an embroidery guy because I would love to get. I fly out to Colorado every year for skiing, and I'm always rocking a trucker hat, and I was like, dude, I'm tired of rocking everybody else's hat. Like,
yeah, rock your own fucking
I need my own hat. So
you do, man.
So
you do.
It's just been taking me 2 months to figure it out because I'm so anal retentive with stuff like that. So
I bet.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're gonna fall down that, man. Like you're not gonna want to just put the drop on anything, right? It's like the drop's got to be on the right stuff. So yeah. So all right, man. We've been talking for a long time. So
all right, but I know.
You have a great night. Obviously we'll update you once the stuff is edited and ready for, and again, when I say editing, we're just going to put the intro and outro on, like there's no actual editing in the middle of it. Yeah. And then, we'll have to mutually tweet Teo and shout out to him and whatever. I don't know, all that stuff. So
let's do it.
But if you end up launching the new page or anything else in the meantime, let me know and I'll add that into your content for the blog article. So people know, like if you want to drive two types of people to two different pages, that's okay. That makes sense, right? If it makes sense for you. So
I'm getting the page created so that it's just my name and that it'll house all of this shit like Wim Hof and all this stuff. And
there you go.
Because I created like the drop page and I'm like, well, you're forgetting, like I have like this other thing. So it's got to be.
Yeah. Well, remember your name is the branding exercise I do people like you're allowed to have brands within a brand. As long as you can have an all-encompassing umbrella over top of it. So if you are like the center of the umbrella, and then maybe you have 3 to 4 brands that end up growing out of it. So
that's kind of what's going on. And before I was rookie mistakes, whatever. We're learning as we go.
Well, there you go. Well, if we end up doing a regular thing, you'll end up learning all my marketing crap through hanging out and chatting. So
I feel like you got some wisdom. All right, brother.
All right, man.
Thanks so much.
Take it easy.
You too.
Have a good night.